All right, everyone. Today is a very big day here in South Africa. It marks the start of the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. The SABC News Team is there to attend the proceedings of the launch. And Griselda Lewis is there this morning, and she's going to be covering that for us for the entire day, where the president is expected to address the nation and the crowds gathered there. Griselda, a very, very good morning to you.
Well, a very good morning to you and welcome to this special broadcast. We're coming to you live from the Lepelle-Nkumpi Civic Centre in the Limpopo province. Well, this is just about 40 minutes outside the capital, Polokwane, and this is where President Jacob Zuma will officially launch the 16 days of No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. Well, President Jacob Zuma is also expected to launch the national dialogues aimed at fostering the continuing dialogue of the violence, the scourge of violence against women and children in the country, and also looking at South African family law and how that has been responsive to the needs of women and children in this country. I think this would also speak directly, these national dialogues, to the National Development Plan's vision for 2030 of creating safer communities in South Africa. In particular, if you look at the current statistics that we've seen of violence against women and children in the country, for example, one of these studies for 2015 had indicated that about more than 350,000 children between the ages of 15 and 17 have been exposed to sexual violence in this country. And if we look at the statistics relating to women versus men in the country, one of the studies there indicating that more than 70% of women in this country have been exposed to a sexual offence versus the 30% exposed to their male counterparts. But certainly a conversation that needs to be had. President Jacob Zuma is expected to speak here at the Lepelle-Nkumpi Civic Centre from 10 o'clock this morning. But let's engage a bit more about what's expected to take place here today relating to the 16 days. I'm joined with me here two guests, Mbuyiselo Botha from the Commission for Gender Equality, as well as Ms. Githuku-Hlongwe, who's the UN Women representative in the country. Let me start with you, Mr. Botha. Thank you very much for your time. How is South Africa faring when it comes to dealing with the scourge of violence against women and children?
Well, we're still seeing a lot of violence against women and children, but one must say at this stage that we're seeing a lot of improvement. We see a lot of convictions happening and sentencing, but also more importantly, we're seeing the Department of Women, the Presidency, doing a lot of work in terms of creating awareness as relating to gender-based violence.
When we talk about the reporting of these cases over the past couple of years, starting from 2008, there'd been a concern about why people don't come forward when they're exposed to violence. But we've seen about a 30% increase approximately at this stage of the number of cases that have been reported. What would you attribute this to? And is this a step in the right direction in terms of dealing with the scourge?
Well, I think that the two things. One of them is that women are finding it encouraging that the rate of convictions are going up high, but also the sentencing, so that the confidence is brought back. That's the one thing that I think it's working towards, our favor, but also, and more importantly, the involvement of men, saying all of these things can't happen in our name. That is a good sign that, as a country, we're moving in the right direction.
We're also seeing government slightly changing its strategy in terms of dealing with violence against women and children. We're also seeing the launch of the national dialogues here this morning, where it will start here in the Limpopo province and be rolled out throughout the rest of the country. Now, these national dialogues are direct conversations that will be had with the victims of violence in the country. Is this a step in the right direction in terms of trying to understand why we still see the scourge, why the numbers numbers are still quite alarming. One of the studies that we've seen talks about 350,000 children between the ages of 15 and 17 who have been exposed to some kind of sexual offense or the other.
Well, we think that what the Minister Lepelle-Nkumpi has done, it's very innovative, creative, in the sense that you're going to communities to say, how do we then, where are the gaps, where are the limitations, where are the challenges? So it's women's voices, where their agency, on the ground, are beginning to be heard. So we think that as a commission, this is very important. But having said that, we are of the view that after listening, there must be a concerted, program that says, how then do we act? Because it's all very well to listen and to hear, but it should not stop there. The Commission says that we support this process. We think it's a very important giant step in our country where the Minister and her team goes to the ground. But the most important thing is, the question is then what happens thereafter? And we think that we must support the Minister, support her team to ensure that, of all the 9 provinces, that when women's voices have been heard, a program that is that is long term, that is sustainable, then it should come up of these processes.
Right, thank you very much, Thembuyiselo Botha from the Commission for Gender Equality. Let's bring in now the UN Women representative in the country, Ms. Anne Githuku-Hlongwe. Thank you very much for your time. If we look at South Africa on the global stage and how it's faring when it comes to dealing with the issue of violence against women and children in South Africa, exactly how are we faring? We adopted this in 2008. We're still having this conversation in 2016. We still see the alarming numbers. So exactly how are we faring in South Africa?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. What we are seeing happening in South Africa is that South Africa is collecting data more than many other countries across the world, and so we're beginning to see the real challenges of the epidemic. We're beginning to understand in South Africa what the causes are of this epidemic, and we're beginning to see how investments in gender-based violence are beginning to produce results. So one of the things that we see is that we have, for instance, Thuthuzela centers, which are one-stop centers that are a global model that are applied all over the world. The sad news right now is that there is waning support for the Thuthuzela centers, and so the global theme for this 16 days is Orange the World, invest in women's opportunity, invest in gender-based violence. So we need to invest in things like these Thuthuzela centers and make sure that they're available in every single part of this country. We're seeing that the justice system is actually improving and increasing in the way in which it's working. And so South Africa is faring well in terms of having designed a comprehensive response to violence against women and girls. However, what we don't know is what are the drivers? What is driving violence against women? Why is it that here in Limpopo we're hearing about stories of witchcraft driving violence against women? We're hearing about femicide, where women are getting killed by intimate partners. Old women are getting raped by young people. What's driving that? And that's what these national dialogues that the Department of Women and other departments have put together is a huge innovation. And so where on the one hand we see huge investments, on the other hand we see that there's still a very, very long way to go. And what we need to do is invest even more in the prevention of violence against women.
That's exactly the point I wanted to get to, Ms. Hlongwe, when it comes to the prevention. But I think we'll take a very short break. Just before we come back to you on that, we'll take a very short break here on Morning Live. We'll come back to you straight after this as we continue the discussions here as President Jacob Zuma launches the 16 days of no violence against women and children.